Wait,
So
Dan.
There we go. And Dan Dixon.
So as far as, oh, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just a brief update on window dressers. Cheryl and I were scheduled to start measuring this week. But I had a COVID exposure, so I'm gonna stay home or in the office, not go into people's homes. So we are scheduled for maybe next week or the week after to start measuring for that. We already have about 20 people signed up. I put the labels on the flyers, and those are, some of them were distributed today, and will be the rest will be tomorrow. It's on the website, and it was posted on Facebook today too. So the word is officially out about it. So feel free to share that and post that to get anybody to sign up. I don't know what else, Cheryl. We really just need 2 volunteer measurers at this point to help keep moving things along and getting everybody measured so that we're ready to go. I have the deadline for people to sign up until the end of August. I have August 31st right now on the website. That can be changed, but I just figured then at least we would have a month or so for any final measurements for anybody who signs up. I don't know how we feel about that.
Yeah, and typically it's 2 weeks before the build, so.
I think we want to be careful with it though, because it's a much larger catchment area than usual. Because 2 weeks before the build and it's out to the whole Bangor region, you could get slammed right up to the last minute.
Yeah, I think we can extend it if needed, but as for right now, with only 2 measurers, I just wanted to be cautious. So if we can figure out 2 more measurers, that would be great. I know Sonia mentioned it last meeting, so maybe I can send out an email to her tomorrow and link up with her and ask, or whatever you think, Cheryl. But if there's anybody else that's interested in measuring too, you should feel free to let Cheryl or I know. That's all I got for an update. If there's anything else you want to add, Cheryl.
No, just the dates of the build. We have the dates of the build all cemented. I think we talked about that last week. And the 22nd is when we are going to do, at the end of the build, is when we're going to have the, what was the name we decided? Orono Energy Efficiency Fair. EEF.
Yep.
Oof.
And we are going to have it, we've reserved the Keith Anderson house to do the build.
Yeah.
We have Public Works has agreed to pick up the equipment and to drop it off as well. So that'll take some of the work off of our shoulders, but there will be substantial work to do the daily supervision and getting the things actually built.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about, when I met with Belle and Megan, about a goal, a window dresser's goal. I know Megan said, Megan LaSala asked for a goal, and I think 300 was what I had heard. We didn't talk about a goal, but is 300, Dan, what do you think? Is 300 a doable goal? Dan would know. I know I talked to Sharon Ryan also about this. Yeah.
If you're going to commit to 300, you're going to want 8 volunteers per shift for 2 shifts every day of the week.
Okay.
Sorry, 300 inserts or 300 people?
300
inserts.
Yeah, not a goal of people. So one house can be 20 windows.
Well, just to give you an idea, last year I think our goal was 150.
Yeah.
We
did it.
But we had a few shifts where we only had like 4 people.
Right.
You know, but we did have some full shifts, and so yeah, 300 is a lot. That's a full week of building.
Getting it done, right? All right. Well, the goal at the moment is just to start rounding up volunteers, and not just people who are getting inserts, but other people in the community to come in and help with the build. So I'm volunteering, and Dan, we're putting you down as a supervisor, so on shifts, so you gotta be here. And, and
Yeah,
Sharon Klein has
I'll
already,
be able to do at least like one shift a day or something like that.
okay.
I don't
Also,
know if I'll be
Megan,
able to do both.
yeah, can you talk a little bit about the times? Because we also had a conversation about maybe doing later shifts, like a 6 to 8 or something for people who are working. What do you think?
Yeah, I
about
mean,
that?
if that's what people
Extending it into the day a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can always do 3 shifts. You could do a morning shift, an afternoon shift, and a night shift.
And do it that way. And then,
But then you got to have, you got to have someone there to unlock the doors, to lock it all up afterwards, to clean everything up at the end of the shift, and
right.
and then there's also the question of, do you provide food
We will provide food. We
at
have
the
money for
beginning
that.
of the night shift or at the end?
Sure.
Yeah.
They can have our leftover pizza from the afternoon shift.
Yeah, I mean, so if you do food between shifts, you could
snacks, probably.
you get people staying from the previous shift and eating, and then people arriving early and eating before the shift as well. So in that way you could just do two
foods
meals per day.
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. And snacks, we can have snacks available.
Yeah, and usually there's like after a
And
few
coffee,
days, like a build up of food.
Right, we've got a kitchen.
So you would definitely want to have a fridge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, the logistics, we can definitely iron out. We were just kind of wondering what a reasonable amount of window inserts might look like in a week. And we do have the Bangor area. We've got several folks in Bangor. So I did, just to kind of add on to Megan's update, I did have a conversation with Sharon Klein, and she does want to help out. She wants to take some supervisory shifts when she can, because school will be in session, of course. And then, yeah, so she said she could help us out with that. And also service learning, sororities and fraternities on campus. We will be in University of Maine mode, and those service learning fraternities and sororities or groups on campus can earn credit for helping out. And she had engaged a bunch of them last year at the Indian Island build. And she said the college students, they'll just walk in and they'll get credit for hours, for helping out with hours. So, I mean, I think we're going to be in better shape than we are projecting as far as people power with our contacts at the university. And Sonia has also, has students at the Wilson Center that she can go.
Yeah. So if you think you're good for volunteers and you're willing to do 3 shifts a day, then 300 is going to be certainly possible. The one thing, the additional complication is storage space. 300 inserts is a lot of inserts. So at the Keith Anderson Center, are you going to have the whole upstairs and the downstairs available?
Yeah.
For the whole week?
Yeah, we have the whole building.
And with no one else coming in like odd days here and there. So that's great. So we could use probably downstairs as storage.
As the inserts get finished.
Yeah, because otherwise they'll stack up into the room and they'll start to make the room really small.
They do. Do people come? Well, I guess we don't know. We don't finish them as a group, do we? Like people can't come get them when they're done because we don't finish them like that.
You can sort the piles.
Put them by label.
Yeah, so when you get the wood from window dressers, it's in like stacks, right. and they're all labeled, and then each window is like 4 pieces wrapped, so you can move them around as little units, and you can sort all the labels together, so that
Yeah.
you can do, you know, a single surname all at once. So you can actually get rid of them through the week as you complete them.
As they get finished, you can give them a call.
Yeah.
And have them come pick them up
Yeah.
after their shift.
And then in addition to that, we can also store them downstairs as well.
Downstairs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we'll.
So that might work out really well.
So
That space.
just letting you know, what we have signed up right now for estimated windows is about 200 inserts.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
Okay,
already.
Yeah. All right.
That's great.
All right. I like your end date. On that note, Megan, I understand your end date. Otherwise, we'll have 5,000 inserts, and we won't be sleeping.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
So that's the estimated date, but do they usually always do the estimated number, or maybe a little less? Because I mean, I can just keep an eye on it, and when we start getting close to 300, maybe just stop. Right?
You actually end up doing more because people do drop-ins.
And rewraps.
Drop-ins and rewraps. Yeah, drop-ins with rewraps. Yeah.
With rewraps, right?
Okay.
And I know the word is out there, and we're the only ones in this area that are doing it this year. So there's already some rewraps coming in, so that we already know about. So yeah. Okay. Well, let's just keep going. I mean, we started it. We're gonna just do it, right? And see.
Yeah, I would definitely wouldn't go over 300 though. I mean, we used to do 300 in Bangor when we were going all out for a whole week.
Yeah. Okay.
With lots of volunteers.
Yeah. With lots of volunteers. That's the key.
That is the key.
Yeah. Good. Anything else on window dressers? Yeah. Anything else? All right. We're rocking and rolling. So now we just need to get those windows measured. And I'm going to commit. I'm committing to getting this done, getting these windows measured. So even if it's just me and Megan, we're just going to power through it.
That's right.
This measurement thing. So the next thing on the agenda is revolving loan fund for efficiency main eligible projects. And I was hoping that Belle would kind of talk to that, what we were thinking about with the either ARPA or other funding that we have available to us.
So this has been an idea that's kind of been kicked around a little bit, a few different times, and with no actual details provided to it. So what we want to do is really talk about what makes sense, and try to put together a proposal perhaps we would first take that to town manager and say, this is a proposal, how would you think we should propose funding it? And then it would go to council once we have a funding strategy. The initial thought behind this is that this would be a low interest or zero interest loan fund. It would be for, you guys could decide if there's income qualification levels or not, but Orono residents to apply to match efficiency main subsidies. The idea behind choosing efficiency main eligible projects is that those are already kind of pre-screened, so to speak, in terms of this will improve a homeowner's, whether it's electrical usage or heat and cooling, that type of thing. So they've already kind of said these are the types of projects that are eligible, and that would make it a little bit easier for this program to decide whether things are eligible or not. So things to kind of think about in terms of designing this. A, is this an effective use of funds? B, if the answer to A is yes, is this open to all income levels or just low to moderate income? And then C, what is an appropriate level of funding to at least shoot for? And then, it's possible that it might have to get dialed back, but what do we feel like is an appropriate level of funding? So the thought is that somebody would take out a loan. They might have it for, I guess that's another question, is what are the terms for it? 2 years, 3 years, as they pay back into the loan fund, then more money becomes available for other people to apply. So, thoughts on that idea?
So I got a friend who's an economist at the university, and he thinks that if you open up these kind of like loan, or let's say, yeah, these incentive programs to all people equally, the unintended consequence is that the price of the product ends up going up. So the way to avoid that is to have like a sliding scale where the people that really need it get more and the people that don't need it don't get it. Whereas, but then how you actually accomplish that is the difficult part, because a lot of people aren't that comfortable, reporting their income.
Right.
So that becomes the challenge then. How much are we talking about this loan fund, or is that open to question?
That's part of the question. What are we comfortable with as a maximum project? Keep in mind that you probably don't want to make it too big in terms of a maximum loan, because the larger the loan, the more kind of underwriting research or underwriting you should do, like to make sure that the money will actually come back.
Do we know the cost of an installation, a heat pump installation approximately?
Yeah, about between, for a 12,000 BTU unit, between 3,000 to 5,000.
Okay, so 3,000 to 5,000. So the loan wouldn't be any more than that, right?
So hold on,
And
I'm confused. I'm confused. It's a loan, not a loan fund at the town that gives cash incentives. It's a loan to people, and then how the hell are they going to pay it back?
So during COVID, and probably Belle will probably be able to explain this better than me. During COVID, we set up a fund with one of the banks here to help people out in the village, or the stores that were affected, that had to effectively shut down, to help them out. It was a low interest loan, and it can be set up with the banks. But go ahead and talk about that.
So the way that one was done is that the town underwrote any loan that was taken out for COVID recovery, and up to, I think, $10,000. So the town guaranteed it, but wasn't actually putting the money out. And UCU was the bank that worked with us. Now, nobody ended up applying for the program, partially, I think, because there was enough money out there that wouldn't have to be paid back, I think. The idea behind this is that Efficiency Maine offers, so much as an incentive to do this. But there may still be a gap between what Efficiency Maine will offer and what somebody is able to afford to do. And particularly with loan rates increasing, this would be an attractive way to get a project done for them.
Right, so it wouldn't be any more than 5,000, and Efficiency Maine is giving rebates too, so it would be even less than that.
Yeah. So
And will it be an interest-free loan to the
It
resident?
could be.
It could be.
because that's very attractive.
Well, and Lee, what were you gonna say? You had a comment.
I was about to say that I just did a quick poll of some of our air source heat pump projects, and they're coming in somewhere between 6 and 15,000.
It will be 15 for a home.
Yeah, so that's probably like a multiple unit installation. So, but anyway, that was just kind of a range, to give you an idea what an air project's gonna look like.
Yeah, I just
think
put
those
one
are the
in.
details that we
I
need
just
to
put a
iron out.
12. I just put a 12,000 BTU single unit in with a single wall unit, and it was 4,000. But I did get 500 off, so it's probably more like 5,000.
You got 500 off. So I guess those are some of the things. The other thing that is not just heat pumps, but we also want to offer solar as well. So we've got the window inserts, but we also want to look at, I mean, we are really focusing on energy efficiency and lowering our carbon footprint and getting people off oil and the high cost of oil and heating their homes. So solar is another, which could be way more expensive.
Yeah,
than-
you're looking at
than a
30
heat pump.
plus.
But see, I see that as people, not necessarily low income people, but people who, have the property to put solar panels on their roof or things like that, which is a little bit more expensive.
It sort of seems,
As part of this fund, right?
yeah, it sort of seems like the town is not trying to fully finance any of these projects, and there's already other financing coming in. So maybe like $5,000 to $7,000 might be a high end for a loan from the town to kind of help offset things as a ballpark. And then you could also, in theory, instead of having people submit their income, you could base it on the property value. And that would give you kind of an idea of what people have for an income.
Well, we might have some renters. Well, we won't have renters, but.
No, I'm
we might
sorry.
have some land that one. Yeah, I don't know.
When I made
Yeah.
that comment, when I made that comment earlier about the my buddy on campus, that was with regard to actual cash incentive programs, like the $2,000 for the EVs, or the 75 or the 7,500 federal incentive for EVs. I didn't realize it was a loan. I'm sorry. So it doesn't apply to loans as far as I can tell.
Okay.
A loan's a loan. I think if you loan money to anyone, it doesn't change.
This was, and so the funding, so I talked to Sophie about where the funding would come from, and what her advice was to at least start writing down some numbers. And I'm sure Belle knows this too, and start writing down some numbers, and she would try to, the town will work with the numbers first and then see where the funding can be. It's not going to come out of town budget. It's going to come out of grants and ARPA, if we have ARPA funding. So, and then how many people take us up on it? It would be paid back. So there's some wiggle room. I'm feeling like there's some wiggle room for that. And then to Belle's question, is it an effective use of funding? Do you feel like this is a way to get people to have some relief from the high cost of heating, or at the same time start to get people to move away from fossil fuels?
Yes.
Sticker shock is what keeps people from doing those things. So if you can kind of like help with that, and if it's like a 1% loan over 10 years or whatever, something like that, people are going to be like, oh, well, that's a good deal.
Right.
Yeah, that's the other question is the loan term. Is it going to be 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah.
I think the town can work through that too.
Yeah, so I think good information for me to take back and then to try and start putting a little bit more bones to the structure. Really, I'm hearing a max load amount of 5,000 to 7,000. That seems reasonable. The project criteria, so solar is not a efficiency main eligible project.
Oh, that's
so,
right, yeah.
That would be kind of broadening the scope.
I feel like we should include it though. I feel like we have our solar vendors and I know that there are people that would rather just go solar than heat pump if they had an opportunity.
You could have two different parts of the program. You could have like one set of the program that has a certain set of terms for efficiency and then another set of
Right.
terms. If you want a solar system, it's 4%. If you want energy efficiency, it's 2%.
Yeah,
Whatever.
something along those lines.
Yeah, there's a way.
Some
You
kind
can,
of incentive, right?
Well, my concern is that there's not, an unlimited number of dollars that we can
Right.
request. The smaller the loans, possibly the more people you can reach. The question is, will we actually get people to apply for it?
Right.
And I think that would be probably the answer last year with interest rates last year might have been people like that, not worth it, but interest rates today and looking into the future look like maybe it seems reasonable to go through a little extra work to
Right.
apply for it. My concern with solar projects though is that $5,000 to $7,000, I feel like doesn't get you very much. So you would be looking at a much bigger.
But if they kicked in $5,000, if they had 10, you know what I mean? It's like, it would be a different income bracket. That would be able to have, able to
But
take
I
out
guess my point is a different income bracket has access to other
funding.
yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be.
That's true.
I mean, this wouldn't be necessarily to get them to say yes to solar to begin with. I mean, they're already going to say yes to solar. It's like, well, do I want 10 panels or do I want 12 panels?
Do the solar companies like Revision and Sundog, do they have in their own incentive programs?
I'm
Do you know?
not entirely familiar with the exact things, but we do have loan programs to get people money if they need it. Some people.
Maybe it would just be good to have them be vendors and to present at the energy fair, and if they have their own incentive program, so they have their own
I don't think
rebates or whatever, yeah.
in-house, but there are other that do finance solar projects.
To do financing for that.
That the owners
Maybe that's enough, Bill. I think you're right.
but those loan terms be a lot higher than anything the town's probably going to put out. So
Right.
If the town's willing to throw in the homeowner applies to the town, town's willing to write off like $4,000 whatever into the project, that
But
might
we're
be.
not writing it off, it's still a loan.
Or we're willing to put in like 4,000 to this project, expecting to get, like 4,500 back or whatever after 5 years, whatever the term is. That might be enough that the person's willing to buy 2 more panels, right? Instead of having 10 panels, they're going to go for 12 because now their budget's a little bit bigger. So the town's money would just be potentially adding a little bit more to a project.
Yeah. I think it's worth at least contemplating and seeing if it's viable.
Yeah.
And like I said, I definitely want to see the solar people there at the energy fair. But like I said, they might have I don't know, they might have their own incentive kinds of programs, or maybe if we're asking them to sell in bulk, maybe they can come up with some discounts if they're part of this this group, or maybe the town can work with them to see if we can see what we can do.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's probably lots of avenues at this point
yeah.
to try.
It's all gonna come down to each
that
individual.
cost. Yeah,
or-
and their needs and what they can do, right? Yeah.
So, would a reasonable request be 50,000? That's approximately 10 projects. That would be kind of a lot to handle, at least at the very beginning of the project cycle, you know, the loan.
I think 50 would be a good starting, would be a good jump off. And we don't know who would take it up.
And with the revolving loan funds, you need to have the terms of repayment enough so that you can support the program going forward, you know, with somebody to administer it, and then to have a little bit of extra money coming in so that, you know, in year one, if you start with 50,000, you know, year two, you've got, you know, 50,500 or whatever, you know, like, or, you know, as your repayment goes along. So the program can expand and actually support more projects.
Yeah, and thank you, Lee. I think that's the hope, that we can help people out a little bit, year by year.
Yeah.
With this, so. And I'm sure a bank will probably take over that part of it. A local bank.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have somebody who knows how to manage loan, all that other stuff, it's probably easier to have, you know, a credit union or somebody else who's interested in partnering on the project to manage some of that.
Yeah, yeah, the town has access to those kinds of, that kind of support.
So I think I have enough information to at least start trying to put something together, and hopefully have maybe a little bit more to talk about next month.
Sounds good. So, okay, so we've got that. Any other comments on that item, on the revolving loan fund? Anything else that you can, questions or concerns? So updates, I'm gonna move on then. So we're talking a little bit about the Orono Energy Efficiency Fair. We have a date, October 22nd. We don't have a time set or any of that that I know of. I don't know how long the building, or what you've rented, what time you rented the building for.
So
We
Megan
have,
and David are working on that,
Okay.
on the logistics.
Yep,
So
we have
what's-
a tentative of, I talked with Kate Rankin from Efficiency Maine and just picked her brain a little bit about, you know, how you set up these events. And it was mostly for my sake and just asking her questions. But she was saying to allow at least an hour and a half for vendors to set up. So the thought was to have the doors open at 7:30 so vendors and exhibitors can come in for a start time of 9 o'clock. And then we would start kind of talks right away from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, or however many slots we want to do. I believe we only have one room for presentations and lectures. Is that right? There will be like no overlapping talks. There's just one room, right?
You're talking about Wells Conference Center.
Yeah. What do we think? Do we want to have two rooms that are giving presentations simultaneously, or do we just want one room and those are the lectures for the day?
I don't know. There's 3 rooms total. There's a small room off to the side. Then there's room 1 and 2, and they have a divider that can actually be removed to turn it into a giant room. So, yeah, depends how you want to do it.
So one of those rooms doesn't count like the exhibitors hall, or it does?
Yeah, so
Like,
room
room
1 is the big room. And then, but then room 2 is right next to it, and it's got a sliding wall. So if you wanted, you could turn room 1 into a mega room 1. Or you keep the sliding wall in place and you've got then room 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. So how I'm kind of imagining it is if it's one lecture room one room with exhibitor tables and then another room for kind of chit chatting and food. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I think what we wanted to do here was essentially just provide the update that we've got 10/22 as the date. I think that's news to, well, Lee is probably the only one at this point who hasn't actually heard it, but it's news to the committee in theory.
I don't think our other two committee members know either, because we'll update them.
We'll update them. And this will be on the website as well.
Yeah.
So we've got the date. Megan is starting to work on trying to collect vendor and possibly presenter information. But one thing that we want to do is put together a subcommittee. If anybody else is interested in providing suggestions or feedback or support on how to put this thing together, rather than kind of work through those details tonight. So that would be a subcommittee. We would put that out to, everybody who sits on this committee. But if there's somebody else that you know of who has a lot of experience putting together conferences and really is excited about this idea, we would welcome them. And Megan, you were going to put out a doodle for a meeting for this subcommittee, right? To this group.
Yeah, I didn't know the steps for that. Or were we gonna I thought maybe we were gonna decide who was on the committee first and then figure out from there to make another meeting, or you want a separate? What are the steps here? Sorry.
I think what we can do is send the doodle out to everybody and say, if you're interested in being part of this, please respond to the doodle. And that will be, two birds, one stone.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. I'll do that.
So the subcommittee would meet more than once a month, right?
There would probably be a flurry of activity, and then once decisions are made and all that kind of stuff, it goes away.
Okay, right.
Anything else, Maggie, you can think of on the fair? I've seen some of the emails she's been sending out. She's actually making some great progress on reaching out to people
and the vendors that you're reaching out to, Megan, are all Efficiency Main vendors?
I haven't reached out to any vendors yet. I only talked with Efficiency Main because I figured we should get a subcommittee together first to figure out the time slots for lectures and things like that.
That makes sense. Good. Okay, so that's a brief update on that. We'll get so I get a subcommittee started. And B is on our menu.
Is it dinner time?
On our agenda, climate action and adaptation plan. So an update on what's happening with that.
So we have had a few meetings with the consultant. Today, we talked about kind of the makeup of the advisory committee. So we have already started the data gathering portion of this, and the Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System, or BACS, is actually leading that data collection. So we talked to them on Tuesday, I think, and Megan is doing a great job of providing Orono's info, and they're reaching out to all the 11 communities that's part of BACS. And then as they start getting the data in, they'll start kind of trying to assess vulnerabilities. And so they're going to want to have an advisory committee. So the suggestion is that all of the BACS communities would have a seat at the advisory committee, and Bangor and Orono would each have a counselor. So we'll have to ask the council who they would nominate. I would presume the answer would be obvious, but I can't make any assumptions anymore.
It's okay.
So then also they're looking for people who have, you know, building expertise or climate adaptation and resilience expertise, and kind of either local or statewide experts in those kinds of topics. And then also some community members, so like a youth representative, perhaps a member of Bangor's DEI committee might want to sit on this advisory committee. The idea behind this is not only to provide a committee or not only to build a committee that can provide feedback on, you know, does this data gathering make sense? Does this vulnerability assessment make sense? And if we say, you know, you should increase your building codes for insulation to whatever, is that a manageable, doable thing for communities? But also to start building support and buy-in from the communities, from kind of the grassroots level up through, you know, the decision-making bodies. And that allows, as the planning part, even though at the moment it doesn't feel super easy, but the planning part is the easy bit, and then it's the implementation that really gets difficult, because you really have to make some, you know, fairly difficult policy decisions. So that's the idea behind the advisory committee.
Is Josh, is there a consultant as well who is part of this?
So we've hired a consultant led by the BSC group, and there's 2 other sub consultants involved in there. Linnaean Solutions, I think, which did the South Portland and Portland cap, and Scouter Design, something like that. So that's who we're talking to now. Josh Rosen has kind of stepped back.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he kind of completed his effort with the RFP and graduated from law school and has lots of other things that he has to deal with. Dan, did I capture the idea behind the committee?
I think so. I think you captured it very well. There's also the other group is Integral.
Oh, right.
So BSC is sort of like the leader, the overarching umbrella group, and then underneath them you've got Linnaean, Integral, and Scouter Design.
Now, are they going to try to find a youth representative from all of the BACS communities, like from Hampton? Is Hampton part of?
So there's going to be lots of different outreach options. So there's going to be stakeholder meetings and public meetings and all kinds of stuff. So this is one way of outreach. So because I happen to be on the meeting, I volunteered low time, and she's said that she would do it. So
good. She's a cutie.
Yeah, and you know, very interested.
Thank you, Mom. Yeah.
And as we kind of go through, if there's a particular need for additional youth input, then we would do that at that focused meeting.
Yeah.
Anything else on that, on the climate adaptation?
No, our monthly meetings with them come around way faster than I expect them to do. At any rate, things are moving forward, which is good.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the community efficiency grant, the building requests with qualifications, and how that's going.
So Megan wrote a great RFQ, provided it to me and Rob Yerxa to review, and then had to poke us a few times in order to get us to do it. But that has been published. It's on our website. We have put it out to the main municipal website as well, which feeds a whole bunch of those RFP type engines. And then Megan, you are gonna email that out to kind of a handful of consultants that we know of. And if there's anybody that you guys think that we should send it to, we'd be happy to give them a heads up that this exists.
Good. And that's the funding for the energy efficiency.
And
Phase
is that-
one.
And that's for the town office building?
So we put in 5 buildings, Megan?
Yeah, that's for 5 municipal buildings.
And we estimated that at 25,000 and asking for like a tier 1 type assessment. One of the engineering firms provided us with they have different levels of energy assessments. And what we're asking for, they think about $5,000 per building is reasonable.
Sounds good.
And I called it a community efficiency grant. It's a resiliency. It's a community resiliency, efficiency, resiliency. One of the questions that I have is, when is the second round of this grant? When does the next September? Okay. When do we need to start thinking about it? Or as an ask, or what the, or is it? Have we started talking about it with the first one, and there's like a part 1, part 2?
So we didn't say anything about we're gonna apply again.
Okay.
For X. I think we need to get some of these projects kicked a little further down the line. Is it mid to late September, I think, Megan?
I believe it's the 22nd, but I can double check.
Yeah, so I think kind of at the beginning of August, which is right around the corner,
Right.
we should really start thinking
needs.
about what it is that we might want to do.
Okay. Because I knew there was another 2, there was a number 2.
Yeah, and initially
Coming up.
we had thought that number 2 was going to be our phase 2 funding.
Right.
The funding for the climate action and adaptation plan kind of got all jumbled up because we applied for funding in the resiliency grant process, as did Bangor. And then Bax had money set aside for it. So trying to figure out what it is that we've committed to in terms of the funding for that. But initially, we were thinking that all of the September ask was going to be phase 2.
Right.
Which is really the adaptation portion of the study.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. Any other questions or comments? Anybody?
No.
On the resiliency? So the
I
next.
got one quick
go ahead.
comment.
Sure.
I'm looking for a university representative from the Mitchell Center who specializes in resiliency. And I talked to a friend of mine who specializes in resiliency, but unfortunately he's going off to New Zealand on sabbatical starting this year. So he's going to be gone for the next year. So, but he did point me to some great documents and resiliency tools that he's been working on with another professor who I've sent an email to. And unfortunately, she's also on sabbatical or starting sabbatical in September. But she apparently is sticking around. So there's a slight chance she might want to be involved. And she was also involved in developing these resiliency tools. So it would be great to have her, even if she doesn't want to be like the representative, it would be great to have her just like maybe give us a presentation and walk us through how to use these tools for making decisions. That could be useful.
Are you talking about Orono, or are you talking about
That's the regional,
the regional plan?
yeah, advisory.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
Okay.
climate action and adaptation plan.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of resources at the university, which is nice.
Yeah.
It is,
Including.
but it's trying to find people with enough bandwidth to actually do something.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
And not on sabbatical.
Yeah.
That's good. Good. Well, that's kind of wraps up what we needed to talk to tonight. We do have a section in our committee meetings for public comment, but I don't know that we have anyone here.
Nope, there's nobody
So,
on.
so nobody's on, no public comment. Our next meeting, and we are meeting on Thursdays, and I know a Zoom link went out last night. We'll get that fixed. But if there's next Thursday, the next meeting is July already,
Yeah, it will be July 28th.
July 28th. If that's, Dan, when are you headed out? When are you going to Peru?
So I'm leaving end of July, and I'll be back like August 11th because I'm visiting my family in the UK. Then I'm leaving last week of August, around August 25th, and back end of September. And that's the
So
Peru trip.
you probably won't be around for July 28th.
No.
Okay. I don't know if we'll be fine, right? I think we'll be fine without you.
Oh.
I know, maybe
No, I
not.
feel superfluous.
Maybe not. So, good.
Oh, there's
Great.
one more comment. Erica wanted me to tell you that the Orono High School Environmental Club would probably like to volunteer for the window dressers.
That would be wonderful.
So keep that in mind.
That would be great. That would be great. And yeah, so homework, guys, is or all of us, is to try to find volunteers for window dressers. I am going to put an email out, which I haven't done yet, to the parent website. So, because we can grab people from there, and it's really going to be more about the build, right? And if we can find students or people that want to measure. Measuring is a little harder because you have to go into people's homes. We do have some COVID guidelines that we have to follow, and everyone has to have a vaccination. And I don't know if they're checking for boosters, but you do have to register that you've been vaccinated before you go into home. So it's a little bit more.
Yeah, and you should travel in pairs.
And we will travel in pairs, right?
And you have to learn the software and the training on how to use the laser rangefinder.
But yeah, so we've both been trained, but that's a Zoom right now. That's a Zoom presentation. So,
Okay.
And Megan Lasala will do one for us if we have a couple people that are ready to go. So,
Do we have any contact in Bangor who might have, maybe they're not doing the build this year, but they measured last year?
That's a
Since
good,
most of our windows are in Bangor.
right?
Would maybe Megan Masala have that info
She
as
probably
previous
would.
volunteers?
Yeah,
That I think would be very helpful.
I don't think, did Bangor do a build last year? I don't think they did, but they did one the year before. Remember the Unity Church, the UU Church was undergoing construction or something?
Yeah, well, there was. I'm not sure if they've done one since COVID started.
Right,
But there's
Good, the
definitely.
volunteers are good at rested.
yes.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope Megan has a list of volunteers from Bangor that we could hit up. That would be good. In the past,
Yeah.
In the last few years, the Bangor build has been run by my AmeriCorps volunteer.
Right,
And so I kind of thought of it more like an Orono build, even though we were in Bangor. But and the AmeriCorps program that provided that volunteer isn't running this year. So I don't have that full-time volunteer.
I just saw Deb Paradis at the Climate Council in Augusta on Friday. climate.
She was there.
conference. She was presenting.
For who?
She's doing something with TNC, with the Nature Conservancy. I think she's either an intern or she's either interning with them. She's doing something with the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah, she did a presentation with Chantal Neptune.
Excellent. I love meeting the old volunteers and seeing how they're getting on in life. That's good.
Right. It was a good conference. It was a really good conference. Okay, well, on that note, we are exactly an hour, and I'm going to adjourn if anyone, unless anyone has anything else that they want to say or do.
I just want, I'd like to congratulate you for having us finish early.
Yes, thank you.
I think it's a
Belle's
first.
Belle's on vacation. She's actually making me finish early. Starting right now, she's on vacation. So good night, guys. Thank
Have a
you
good
so
night,
much.
everybody.